My Lark chainmail saved my life. This story happened just a few years back when I was visiting an old friend in Cologne, while at the same time taking advantage of him as a free stay for a meeting with my LARP group. For those of you who don't know what LARP is, it's basically real-life action roleplay. Imagine D&D, but instead of people sitting around a table with dice, you have people actually dressed up as their characters, role-playing. LARPing has been my hobby since I was 14, and after I got a job that paid pretty well, I started to go a bit more out when it came to things for my hobby. One of those things I spent a solid amount of money on was my character's armour. Important to this story, the chainmail I wear under my outer armour. After the meeting of my group, I mostly got out of my LARP outfit because I really didn't want to walk through that part of Cologne, which was one of the more dangerous places of the city, as a medieval knight. But since I couldn't fit all of it in my bag, I kept my chainmail on, as well as my tunic and pants. On my bus ride home, I noticed some guy seemed to have his eye on me, but I guessed it was because I still looked very out of place. When he got off at the same station as me, I didn't pay him much attention. I was almost at my friend's place and decided to call him, asking if we should meet and if he wanted to get food, which he agreed to before I even finished the question. I arrived at our meeting spot first and waited. Then I noticed that guy from the bus again, who was now walking straight towards me. I got closer to the wall in an effort to make space. But he didn't pass me. He stopped before me, pulled a knife, demanding my bag, wallet and phone. I was willing to give him my wallet, but tried to explain the bag only had some armour and foam weapons, but it seemed that even talking was enough to set this guy off, and suddenly I felt 2 stinging punches to my stomach. It hurt like hell. I dropped down and the guy grabbed my bag. Honestly, the next steps were not really on my mind. I was barely able to notice anything other than the voice in my head screaming, "You've got stabbed." So the next thing I noticed was my friend shaking me. My bag was open, my stuff was all over the place, and he was holding my helmet with blood on it. He said he saw the guy throwing my stuff around, and the bag was most likely too heavy and big for him. So my friend, seeing me on the floor, managed to grab the first thing he could, which happened to be my helmet, and then he bashed the guy until he ran away. We later checked my stomach, and even though I had 2 giant deep bruises, which hurt like hell, I only had small cuts, since the chainmail stopped the knife. Until this day, I get sick to my stomach when I think back on that day, and I remember if I had not wore that piece of my LARP clothing, I would have been dead, literally killed over a bag of costumes and €150 in my wallet and a 10-year-old phone. This world is messed up. Story 2. Someone tried to break into my home while I was asleep. This happened a few years ago now. So, I live alone with my 2 cats. We live in a flat, but the front door is on the street level, so when you open the door, you go up the stairs and you're already inside. I don't have a garden either. Now, I'm in my mid-30s, female, very small, petite, and lucky enough to still look young. I get ID'd for cigarettes and alcohol. I also smoke outside by the front door, as I don't like smoking inside. Yep, even when it's raining. I don't live in a rough part of town, so it's fairly usual to say hello to people walking by. They're used to seeing me outside smoking, so we often exchange greetings. People regularly use this area as a shortcut. My last cigarette is around 11:30, before I go to bed. Of course, when it's really dark out, it can feel unnerving, but as I said, it's a nice area. With that being said, My flat is the only one of two in this area. It's not the best looking. The rest are houses, beautiful houses, pretty decorations, nice cars, pretty flowers, etc. Basically richer and a lot nicer than mine. I'm pretty poor, and you can tell. A few weeks before this incident, I kept hearing my front door handle moving, as though someone had tried to open it. I put it down to kids walking to school, but then it'd be in the middle of the day, then the evening, but each time I got to the bottom of the stairs and no one was around. This one night in particular, I went for my last cigarette, 11:30. I got ready and went to bed. I fell asleep quickly. At one point, I woke up slightly because I could hear the cats playing. I rolled over and went back to sleep. They woke me up again. I could still hear them playing, but also I could hear them growling while they were laying next to me in bed. I sat up like a bolt and realised the sounds were coming from the front door. The cats were still growling. I snuck into the hallway and peered down the stairs. I could see my front door handle turning. For the first time in my life, my brain thought faster than my mouth, and I switched the stairs light on. There was a pause, with my door a few inches open. Then I heard feet running away. I was wasting no time. I ran down the stairs, slammed the front door shut again, then went back up the stairs to call the police. This was around 1 a.m. They finally came out around 5 a.m. I didn't sleep. I sat in the chair, watching the stairs, all night, absolutely terrified whoever it was would come back. I didn't even go for a cigarette, even though I desperately wanted one, because I was too afraid they'd be waiting. The police showed me how they got in. They'd damaged the door frame, and the bit of plastic that seals along the door, that was ripped off. I called my landlord first thing in the morning and had deadbolts fitted. I'm now overly cautious when I smoke. I don't stay in one place anymore. I go for a little walk each time. I also don't stick to the same timings either. And I definitely listen to my cats better. If they're growling, there's a reason for it. So, stranger trying to break into my house while I was asleep, please, let's not meet again. Story 3. Followed into the ladies' bathrooms. I'm 22 years old and female. This story starts with me catching the train ride home. I'm stood at a pretty quiet train platform on a Sunday. As I'm stood there on the train platform, I realise I really need a wee. Before this, there was some guy looking at me really intensely on the platform, but at the time I paid it no attention. So I'm sat there in the cubicle of the bathroom, doing my business, and I keep hearing the bathroom door opening and closing, and I'm sat there, and I'm wondering what's going on. Then, before leaving my cubicle, I hear a woman's voice ask, "Hey, are you okay in there?" Confused, I asked, "Are you talking to me?" And as I left the cubicle, she told me a guy, the same guy as the one from the platform, had rushed in to follow me into the ladies as soon as I wasn't looking. This lady, bless her, had followed in after him and basically scared him away. Thank you, random lady, and I hope I never meet that creep again. Story 4. Followed home, doorway invasion. I was walking back home about 10:30 after a couple drinks with my friends. I wasn't drunk in the slightest, by the way. After I got about 5 minutes away from my house, I noticed a middle-aged man behind me. Alarm bells started going off in my head as I feel he's staring at me. I pick up my pace, and so does he, so I make a beeline for my house and text my housemate that I was due home in a couple of minutes, just in case. I swing around my street corner and fumble to get my keys out of my bag so I can get in as quickly as possible. I'm very aware that this man is closing in on me. I get to my entryway, a small arched entrance off the street, and as I'm trying to unlock my door, this guy barricades the archway and proceeds to beg for my number and call me beautiful, saying that I should get to know him. The whole time, I'm just asking him to leave while I'm trying to unlock my door, which is hard at this point because I was shaking with fear. He reached out to grab me just as I managed to get the door open. I turn and yell at him to fuck off as I slam the door and get inside. I proceed to cry to my housemate, who was mortified. It terrifies me to think what might have happened if I hadn't have managed to get my door unlocked. Creepy guy that followed me home, I hope we never meet again. Story 5. It's good to be alive. This story takes place back in the early spring of 2017. My friends Ben, 17 at the time, Alyssa, 19 at the time, and myself, 16 at the time, were all hanging out after school and wanted to do something outside, since it was the first nice day we had since winter. I live in Indiana, for context. In the end, we decided to go to a campground that Ben and I spent every summer at with our families, since we were little. My family owns a cabin there, but everything was still locked up and nobody was there at the time, because it wasn't camping season just yet. Once we got to the campground, the three of us decided to have a walk around, enjoy the beautiful day. Behind the last row of cabins, there is a small patch of woods, which none of us had ever been in before, so we thought it'd be nice to have a walk through and explore it for a little bit. We spent about 45 minutes in the woods, walking around, joking, jumping over logs, just having fun, when we decided we should probably head back to the car, since it was getting dark soon. We turned around to head back, Alyssa leading the way, me in the middle, and Ben trailing behind. As we are walking, we hear a click coming from behind us. We turn around to see what it is. When we do turn around, we see a man, only a couple feet away from Ben, and he's holding a rifle, and it's pointed right at us. We immediately put our hands in the air out of instinct, probably to show that we are unarmed and aren't trying to pull anything. The man is scowling at us. He looks to be in his mid-60s, because he appears older, not because he appears dishevelled by any means. He doesn't move his gun or his gaze off us. After several silent seconds of us just staring at each other, Ben finally says something along the lines of, "We were just walking through." When he speaks though, the man darts his eyes immediately to Ben and starts yelling. I don't remember the order of which he says things, but some of the things he screamed multiple times were, "How dare you? You're trying to hurt and scare me and my family. You think you can all just do whatever you want, don't you? This is my property, not yours, and I could shoot you right now." Amongst him screaming these things at us, he would also try to ask us questions like our names and why we were in the woods, stuff like that. But any time we would go to answer his questions, he would just yell at us to shut up, shut the F up, stop talking. He definitely did not seem completely mentally there, possibly dementia or something like that. The whole time this is happening, he appears to be thinking really hard, on top of being angry with us. We felt trapped. We were afraid he would do something if we tried to move or even speak when he told us not to. After he kept us there for about half an hour or so, a woman who looked to be probably in her mid-30s started walking towards us. When she did, we were all silently thinking she'd come to save us from this confused relative. She started saying something along the lines of, "Come on, just shoot them or call the police already," which the man immediately responded with, "Just let me think." As you can imagine, this small interaction between the two of them definitely did not make us feel any safer. We all felt doomed in that moment. Ben, who is the most level-headed of us, says, "That won't be necessary. We will leave right now." The two of them just looked at each other, then came back to us, then finally said, "Fine, you guys can go. But we will be watching to make sure you actually leave these woods, and if you try to stay or come back, we will do something about it. We all said we won't and started to run back through the way we'd entered the woods. When our feet finally hit the pavement of the campgrounds, we all just continued to walk for a little bit before we finally stopped to breathe. We hugged each other and cried a little bit, just out of pure shock. We didn't even say anything to each other. We made it to Ben's car and we all got in. Ben had his iPad hooked up with all his music to his car, and we would always play it on shuffle. The first song that played was It's Good to Be Alive Right About Now by Andy Grammer. Let me tell you, none of us had ever been more thankful to be alive in that moment, that's for sure. Crazy old man in the woods, let's not meet again.